In November 1973, the Palace of Versailles hosted one of the most iconic fashion shows in history. The Battle of Versailles, in which American designers challenged their French counterparts, was an attempt to raise funds to restore the palace. But it brought Versailles not only money, but new life. It was on its grounds that Simone Porte Giacommo staged his own fall-winter 2023 performance, which promised to present Versailles to the people in a new way. The show is a continuation of a long-term strategy to further establish the accessible Giacommo brand in the luxury space, CEO Bastien Daguzan said in a recent interview. Plans include an international rollout of stores and events that raise the brand's profile in the collective consciousness. This action has the added benefit of giving some of the coolness of Giacommo to a centuries-old palace. My brand is really about youth, so I think Versailles wanted to get me, the designer said. Daguzan explained, "We wanted to show that you can have a date here or come by boat. And it can be beautiful. It's us showing that if they, young people, want it, they have access to it. A luxury handbag, a historic palace, it's all the same thing. You just have to make the inaccessible seem attainable. That's the magic trick of Giacommo. No matter how big, far away, or impressive the place is, it always seems reachable." Jacquemus came to Versailles on his first date with his current wife and always dreamed of showing at the palace. "A year ago I had a vision, and I sent Bastien a letter with 2 pictures of Versailles," Giacommo said after the show. "I told him I wanted people to come by boat and look at the collection from the boat. That's exactly what happened." Guests were escorted to the runway in little fancy white boats, and when we docked, the models came out and walked in front of us against the backdrop of the palace. Giacommo definitely knows how to put on a show. But why, with a palace at your disposal, would you put on a show outside? It was important to me not to come to Versailles in bad taste, Giacommo said. That's why we're a little bit away from the castle and in the greenery. It's also very Giacommo, like to be in the landscape and not in the gold. It went to his advantage. Instead of cramming his brand into Versailles, he borrowed elements of the place that coexist with his point of view, including references to one of its famous residents, Marie Antoinette. His most designer collection in recent memory included elements of the Queen's famous, or infamous, depending on who you ask, love of theatre and ballet, the utilitarian language to which Jacquemus often refers, and, oddly enough, nods to Princess Diana. Diana was inspired by 80s shapes, puffy and ruched silhouettes, a polka dot dress and big rounded sleeves, which he promised would become a trademark of Giacommo. There were also tutus that were worn as is, or as hoops or mini crinolines. A shout out to Vivienne Westwood is a must here. From ballerinas, flat mules and pink print tights came into the collection. Skinny silhouettes were the common denominator of the show, which gave the collection its name, Le Chouchou. Everything looked like a big chouchou, or hair clip, Giacommo said, and I think it's nice to have something very precise that people remember. They can know it's a chouchou collection, and remember the look and the opulence. Most compelling, however, was the designer's inventive tailoring, which at times resembled his previous collections, even if the fit was a little problematic. There were the backless blazers like the one he debuted at the Met earlier this year on Bad Bunny, here with cuts that exposed tutus, a variety of jackets cut and cinched at the waist to friskily accommodate the mini crinolines, and others with one sleeve detached and gathered at the top. Also fun were tutus converted into micro shorts and presented as puffy boxers peeking out of men's trousers. This was Giacommo at his most sincere, offering a playful interpretation of royal dressing. But to his credit, the designer didn't fall back on Versailles-ready costumes. There were no panniers, and cage crinolines were reinterpreted in the shape of airy tie around tops and dresses. While the hodgepodge of references was at times overwhelming, Giacommo has an eye for translating and propelling online fads. It won't be surprising to see Versailles core trending on TikTok after this show, together with the existing ballet core. Paris this week was a battle of the titans. In an industry where bigger and louder is better, and where it is often more about how and where clothes are shown than the clothes themselves, Giacommo keeps setting his own bar higher. "There's always a next story to tell," he said. "It's not always bigger and bigger, and stronger and stronger. It's only something else." Giacommo is a French creative with an American eye for business. It was a display of the synergy, rather than a tussle, between these often contradictory mindsets. There was no battle at Versailles this time around, just a victory lap for Giacommo, one all of his own making.